Last time on Wanderlust. It's dawn in Smoky Banks. You can see that spire that, has to play the song to keep the Great Strider away every once in a while. And you can also see around that spire the small starts of a nymphic colony. There was a lot of destruction caused by the Great Strider, and a lot of effort was going into rebuilding that very quickly. And as it happens, having a huge population of bugs whose one job it is to build structures really quickly became very helpful. Fred, you are in that kind of like ore smeltery mine automated facility that you guys found in the first arc.
The first few trips would just get some more of that metal, just to have more of it. And then I imagine Fred wants to see if he can make any sense of it, to see if it can make other metals or other materials.
As that's happening, you hear some clattering from behind you. Just like footsteps shuffling. You hear someone like struggling and breathing and making their way down it.
Hey, Hugo, I'm sorry for startling you. I just wasn't expecting any company down here, so...
I'm glad that you were willing to find a place in Smoky Banks, but just think about how you might have to change to stay there.
Yeah, so I think Estelle is doing that thing that people who have contacts do, where she's really up close on the mirror and she's trying to look at her eyes because they were glowing.
You do that one more time and you feel your hand change. That little patch on your finger that felt rough, almost woody, it grows, and you look up into the mirror and your eyes are glowing bright green and you blink and it stops.
I was just wondering if maybe you had like some kind of like, some like cream for like eczema. I think I just got like some really dry skin being out in the wilds. And
he looks at it and he goes, that's none of the things that I said. Cookies aside, official business. You're being summoned by the Wild Watchers.
So, been doing a lot of research, it looks like?
Juliet, I've got to say, when I asked you to bring things back from the wild, I did not expect what you did. I've never seen a whole civilization before, but this is years of history that you have sketched out here. If you want to definitely make tenure and you come up with a hypothesis that works, that would be great. I know you're busy and I know you're out here saving the world, but you still owe me one regular date.
Take me to the most beautiful spot in town that is not the ruins and preferably doesn't have a ton of bugs.
Evening in Smoky Banks is always beautiful. You have the ocean crashing gently on the beach. The town really comes alive. There's lights and music and sounds. It's always a very festive evening as people gather in, the little market. They're going to dinner, hearing live shows. Estelle's dad is out there playing for stamps for no reason, just because it's fun. There's maybe a live show going on. It's always very festive. And that's kind of what all of you are being drug away from as you get pulled down towards the lighthouse, this very solemn, isolated building far away from all of that joy and happiness. I will say, Fred, when you got back to town and you got to your shop, Honey at some point just came in and grabbed you and basically drug you off to go to this meeting. Matthew is arriving with Autumn, who I nearly called Willow because I'm a bad person. Juliet, do you think you figured out the riddle? Do you think you pieced this together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'll say like the four of you arrive there with Honey and Matthew. Matthew makes a big show of going up to the door and going, "All right, now down look while I do the secret knock." And then he just knocks on the door. That's the secret knock. It's secret because I'm doing it. The door opens and you see Mitchell standing there. He looks tired. Like his eyes are a little sunken. He just looks a little careworn. Got a little bit of 5 o'clock shadow going on. He's holding a cup of coffee. And he just goes, "Hello, it's good to see all of you. Please come in, have a seat. I didn't mean to be all cloak and dagger about this. It's just still, this is technically a secret society, so we try."
Well, you did use a literal dagger. Did somebody else get a cloak? She holds up her knife that she had stabbed her door.
When you hold it up, Honey goes, "That's mine, dear, and I would appreciate it back."
Oh, all right. Here you go.
Wait, did you just go around leaving knives and doors?
Fred is suddenly turned on.
If I'm going to deliver a secret message, there is a certain pageantry that should be observed, and also a lady should always carry a knife.
I agree, Honey.
Estelle goes over and pats Mitchell on the shoulder. I really don't think you should even consider it being secret anymore. I mean, you did bring Matthew on.
Also, we have merch. Like, we have literal merch. It's on all of our backpacks. Matthew wears his pin everywhere. Do you think Alexis doesn't know? Also, hold up. Mitchell, look at me. Look me in the eye. Do you think Willow doesn't know?
Have you told Willow about us? Did you just immediately tell her?
Mitchell.
Yeah, yes.
Remember about 2 months ago when you ran across town to yell at me to not tell everything that I learned about the Blighthounds to the cute girl that I am now kissing?
That means she definitely told her.
Matthew looks at you and just goes, "Do you mean to tell me that you used your membership in a secret society to impress a girl? Because that is shameful, and I have never once considered doing it in my life."
So you definitely done it.
What?
Ma'am, I told you cannot keep doing this to me. When we're equals, we're professional equals when we're in these meetings.
Do you think Alexis and Willow have a support group, Matthew?
Who's Alexis? Oh, that was months ago. No, I'm not with Alexis anymore.
Who's Alexis?
Brutal. Is Matthew not with Alexis because Cody forgot who she was?
No, this is just legitimately Matthew is like, he's not a...
He's a serial dater. He's been gone for a while. He's gonna play the field.
Yeah, like he's not here to be with one person and then be like, "That's it, I'm done, I'm settling down forever." It's not who he is. He wants to brag to everyone about everything all the time.
It's not like any of us have done that. Looks around sheepishly. Also, hold up. Also, regardless if I told Mitchell, Matthew also interrupted a date to drag me here. Do you think Willow's not going to notice, like, I have to go?
Yeah, he just said a meeting.
Where am I being drug off to at when the sun kisses the ocean at night?
Secret meeting. Doesn't matter. We're moving on. You see Ruben shuffle over. He's carrying a tray of coffee cups and goes, "Please, y'all, sit down. I hope that y'all could enjoy this meeting with us here tonight. I'm happy to have guests, as always. Now, what all of us decided we needed to come together and talk about is, at some point, not necessarily the public-facing image of the Wild Watchers, as we technically do not exist, but I'm so happy to have guests. It's how best to involve the public in future matters to do with the wilds. With the fact that we know that this town is unsafe to some degree, more so than is normal, and also to what extent we are culpable for that lack of safety. up to this point, we have kept it very much a secret.
I think at a certain point, the cat's kind of out of the bag. We have giant bugs living in town now. I don't think that the people in town are as sheepish about learning anymore.
I agree with you, but I think maybe what it is the people in town do not have the perspective on how bad that is. And explaining that can be difficult. Let me give you an example. Living life is a game of roulette, right? And we're just kind of determining how large the cylinder is and how few bullets there are. That is an idiom that only makes sense with guns. A thing we do not have. Sorry. My point is, explaining to someone that they're twice as likely to die living in this town as they are to the neighboring ones, difficult to quantify because that number's already so small. Also, then, the extent to which this town is in flux is much higher than some others might accept.
And you're trying to prevent more kids from going missing. Right.
Mitchell just kind of like puts his head in his hands. We are always trying to stop more kids from going missing, but honestly, at this point, it's kind of moved beyond that. When what I was doing was just really trying to get stupid kids, no offense, I don't mean it like that, it's just I'm tired. When I was just trying to keep people on the path, sure, it made sense, right? Extra precautions in a slightly more dangerous place. But our town is now half built by sentient bugs. That's pretty out there. And that was not really done consulting the town council, the people in this town, and I'm honestly not mad at you guys anymore. I know sometimes I come across that way. It's because I am mad all the time about many things. But really, I think all of you did the best with what you had, and I'm honestly really impressed and grateful that you did that. But it begs a question of what is Smoky Banks when people no longer have the ability to really decide what happens to Smoky Banks with way more frequency than what is typically understood to be normal in a town. Honey chirps up and goes, like Ruben said, it's a matter of understanding those chances. Maybe every eco-herb deals with some kind of large disaster every X number of years. You can assume it'll happen, but it's going to be happening. It's happening at an increasing rate and increasing severity to us. And I think we've lost track of how best to handle this, and you guys are kind of the ones going out and dealing with it, so we're interested to hear your perspective. What do we do next time a giant bug rolls up? The same thing? Just, you know?
Well, I think we should have more disaster preparedness plans in place. For sure, I can help with that.
Matthew just goes, oh, please. I've got plans, and then I've got plans on those plans. Then I've got people to execute those plans. And then I've got me to execute those plans.
Oh, I'd love to read them. Do you have them with you?
He looks at you and goes, would you actually like to read all of my disaster plans?
Of course.
You're literally the only person that's ever actually seemed remotely interested in reading all the plans that I wrote.
I'm fascinated by it, actually.
He, gets in his bag and starts ruffling through and, pulls out blueprints of the town, elevation maps. He has, floodplain information. It's, where people could stay, population,
density, yeah.
Population density in areas below certain water levels. He's got, fault lines, and he's like, alright, now this is gonna get real crazy, but I think the thing is we could start building towers from the Beatles that could be, disaster towers and also underground, and then Mitchell, hearing this, is just still, head in his hands. We don't...
Matthew, this is amazing!
I overdo every job I've ever done, alright? Mitchell, again, is just, head in his hands we do not have approval for any part of that, just so you know. None of that is okay to do. No one said yes to that, and I understand that it's I gave Matthew an inch here, but do you kind of get the problem here?
Well, we can look these over and take them to the council, and I'm sure they'll see that it's a good plan and that it'll save a lot of lives.
I
don't see a problem with going to them with these. They're very thorough. Matthew did an amazing job.
I think the problem that we're trying to address, and correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, is that how do we tell the council that these are necessary? Not this is a good just in case a giant walking bug comes again, but more that this is going to happen again and probably in the next soon.
I don't think we need to scare them. I think they're already aware that weird things happen.
They're aware that one weird thing happened. I don't know if they're aware that Smoky Banks is about to become an entirely different place.
I guess I don't, as someone who has written a lot of things that have gone unread, I think it's fine that we present it to them, even if they don't read them right now, and then they have them if they do need them.
You see Mitchell just kind of like struggling for words, and then, Ruben kind of pipes up again. I believe the thing that we're all struggling with here as people who have lived in this town for a great deal of time is it feels like even if we do all the things right, we're still losing our home. Not that we have any issues with the Build-A-Beetles living here, and with Teti, he's done a fantastic job and has overall helped us in many ways. But what this place is, a quiet tourist town with a nice university and some fantastic local cuisine and artistry, might change drastically in the next couple of years as a result of whatever encroaching oddnesses there are that are now increasing.
Oh. I can try to write a plan for that?
I think that was always going to happen, though, Ruben. I think it has taken...
I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not saying it's your fault or my fault or anyone's fault. I believe it is already happening. But accepting that with grace and any kind of happiness is difficult. I mean, let me give you an example. Like, Estelle, you're from here, right? This place has sentimental value to you.
Yes.
Is it concerning to you that what this place is might shift? That the place where your mom puts on plays, where your dad plays the guitar, all these things might have to change and be something else.
Yes, I guess it's concerning, but I would rather Smoky Banks be here and have to change than it not be here anymore, if that makes any kind of sense.
It does. It does. Maybe that's what we sell them on. Smoky Banks, the place of change.
And what I was meaning wasn't that, like, even without the bugs, I think Smoky Banks will be a completely different place in 20 years than it would be today. And I believe the problem is that it is changing in ways that we did not expect with the bugs. You guys had a plotted change where the kids changed it in a certain way, but the solarium's completely new and looks completely different from the lofts and Old Town. And granted, that was kind of caused by the bugs, but we didn't know that at the time. And that wasn't because we brought the bugs back. It was going to be a new building. And Smoky Banks is going to look completely different in 20 years, whether the bugs are here or not. I just think it's taken a left turn from where we all thought it was going.
I think what I'm concerned about is the future left turns and the mental flexibility of a town of people who are, and I don't mean to be rude, I'm speaking of myself here too, rather stuck in the mud. I like this cup of coffee and the view that I have in the tower that I live in. That might go away. We will see.
So are you worried that people will leave? Or
yes.
I guess what are you concerned about happening?
Certainly that people will leave, that people might stop coming here, that it might be decided that the university is too dangerous to continue operating. Or, I mean, on a personal note, that this place stops feeling like the home that I've lived in for my whole life. But, yes, all those things. People might stop coming here. And then also that the town might change in ways that are fully outside of our control or feedback or intervention.
Like with the bugs.
Like with the bugs, which again, I believe we did our best.
So what are you proposing? Because if we're going to keep going out in the wilds, I don't think we will have the ability to just come back and sit down in a meeting and vote on all the decisions when a giant hurricane might be coming towards us.
You see Mitchell pops his head up and goes, all right, so having a meeting before we do things is out. All right, got it. I'm not even arguing with you on that one. I actually understand the need for quick response. Mitchell looks around at all of you and goes, I don't think that would be possible. Having meetings every time something disastrous happens, right, doesn't always work, because sometimes we have to respond quickly. And I'm not going to ask you guys not to run off into the wilds. Like, honestly, I don't think you're doing it half-cocked, and the thing with the Great Strider, I mean, you had to, and I respect that. I get it. But I think maybe presence of a town representative might not be a bad idea. Not to be rude, none of you are exactly town officials. But that's a possibility.
Are you gonna come with us?
As soon as you say that, Matthew goes, look, Sheriff Mitchell, I know how you feel here, but I actually got this. It'd be totally fine for you to leave, basically. You could retire, and it'd be fine. I mean, you've seen my plans. They're great. Mitchell just, again, just looks haggard and goes, I really hope not. Honestly, not me, but someone. As he, looks around the room, you see, a very old lady and a guy who never leaves a lighthouse, and you're like, running thin here, but alright.
Who did you have in mind?
I didn't, honestly, have anyone in mind. I really didn't. I understand, too, really, right now, there's nothing pressing. There is no urgent, dangerous thing that we have to deal with, so, it's a quiet time. I'm just trying to make a plan for next time there is something urgent.
Oh, definitely. That's a great idea.
And he, looks around and goes, there isn't anything urgent, right? That, I haven't been told about. There isn't, oh my gosh, we're about to get invaded by a swarm of locusts, or the tidal waves, or, anything like that.
No.
I think Teti might be threatening Doc Marlin soon?
You know what? It's look, it's not my job to...
He deserves it. It's okay to say.
At some point, it's there's a degree of asserting yourself that I'm actually okay with. You know what I mean? If someone spits in your face and then you punch them in the face, I'm not gonna show up and tell anyone they did anything wrong. It's okay. That's a measured response. I think that Doc Marlin deserves to be threatened.
I told Teti no murders, and I'm hoping he listens, but he says I'm his boss, and then he disregards most things I say that he doesn't want to do.
I'm sure Mitchell has no experience with that.
Yeah, I know exactly how he feels, or exactly how you feel. I understand that dynamic.
In my defense, you're not my boss.
Wasn't talking about you.
Oh, usually when people say things about that, it's often me.
No, actually, right now, it's really not you that I was actually directly speaking of there. I don't think I ever actually, to your face, told you not to go out in the wilds, please.
But instead of adding someone from a town official adding a town official to us, what if one of us became a town official?
Do you want to run for town office?
Oh, me, no. But Juliet's really good at planning things.
I mean, I've never done that part before, but if they need somebody to maintain plans, I could definitely do that.
So you want to run for the office of main town plan? Town planner is actually a very real thing that actually probably you would be quite qualified for. I put those two words together in my head to sarcastically be like, oh, you want to be the town planner? And I'm like, that's a fully real thing.
I think it has a different connotation than what Juliet excels at, but yeah.
It does. It's just funny that I was smash the words together and be like, oh, you want to be the town this? And I'm like,
right. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a thing.
It's like being like, oh, we should fight the fires. It's like, oh, you want to be a firefighter? That's a thing.
I think all of those are valid options. I think what it is that we just mostly wanted to talk to all of you about our concerns with an ever-changing town and how that might look, and that I think this is going to start affecting the people in the town more than we want it to. You know what I mean?
All right. So tread carefully, I guess you're saying?
Yes, and just, talk to us as much as you can before you do anything. I understand, again, the thing with the bugs, there was nothing you could do. But, yeah, if you're gonna run off into the wilds next time, someone might, I don't want to say, come with you to supervise, but yeah, at some point, maybe.
I will say, as far as the university closing down, I don't think that's going to happen.
Why's that?
The amount of times that Juliet said this is a fascinating discovery, I have to believe there are other people that think that.
Sure, that has a limit, though. Juliet alone by herself finding cool things is not a university.
There are other people.
For now. For now.
There are lots of other people outside. How do you think I heard about Smoky Banks?
For now, what I'm saying is 13 Tetty incidents later, and maybe there aren't people that are, interested in coming to Smoky Banks anymore.
I feel like they'd be more interested.
I think the clientele will be slightly different than archaeologists who want to look at the ruins for 47 hours straight.
Well, algae can survive a number of disasters and are very resilient, so you'll at least always have the algae.
Thank you, Juliet. I appreciate the implication that Smoky Banks is the algae of people. I think that's what'll be on your, that'll be your campaign slogan. Juliet, the algae of politicians. I can withstand so many disasters.
Drain the swamp.
I really want a campaign button that says that. I will put it on my bag and wear it everywhere.
So the evening kind of winds down. You all sit and enjoy your coffee with the Wild Watchers. I'll say that Juliet and Matthew put their heads together and do go over truly dizzying plans that Matthew has made. It's you can tell he has not ever really written formal papers before. This is not his area of expertise. But he has legitimately put a lot of thought and effort into trying to figure out the right way to shepherd people around, and particularly away from collapsing buildings. And there are plans for the Warrens and how to have quick egress from a place that can flood easily. He's got sump pump additions and stuff like that,
Yeah, I'd say he's got a lot of good data that's necessary in order to make an easy to use step-by-step plan.
Yeah.
And so his plans would be kind of all over the place. And Juliet's no, we do need that thing that you have on this piece of paper. Let me organize it,
right,
so that it's usable.
Right. Anyways, so you all, head back to your homes and get to sleep off your day of scrounging for metals and having your finger turn into more of a tree and going on dates and talking to creepy professors.
For the record, I don't go back to my home. I go to someone else's home.
Oh, yeah, you go over to Willow's. The next day, I will say, starts very similarly. Estelle, I think, is still in the bathroom, looking at her very odd hand. It has not gotten better, if anything worse. There's still kind of that rush to get out of the house as all of you leave. And then after your day of working in the gardens, Estelle, you kind of have set this up as a moment to take Matthew into the wilds and kind of have a conversation with him, because he is getting antsy about the notion of you being out there. So I'll say you guys meet up at the ruins and start making your way out into the wilds.
So, what do you think?
I'm honestly surprised you're taking me out here. Typically this is not what you want me to do, so I'm a little confused, I guess.
I have had some time walking around the wilds and having time to think and talk through some thoughts of mine. And, I just want you to know, it's not that I don't it's not that I don't trust you in a situation like out here. I would just be worried for you, but I wanted to take the time to introduce you to some of what I do so that if you are like me and you just go out into the wild without asking other people, you're a little bit more prepared.
Matthew, I think at this point, you like see him drop some of that bravado. Like he actually does pay attention to the stuff that you're showing him as the two of you walk through the wilds together. Because you said you were wanting to like take him to see some animals, correct?
Yeah, I think her goal would be to keep them pretty close. Like, we're not going days.
Yeah.
But she would want to take him to a slightly dangerous area. Like, maybe there are birds that are a little more active.
Sure.
So that she can kind of talk him or work with him through, like, this is what danger is out here.
So, as you do that, as you're going through and showing him, like, known potentially dangerous animals, maybe just larger animals that, you know, something that you notice immediately is how much a lot of this stuff that, like, not that there isn't anything for him to learn from you, but you can see him intuitively doing some of the same things that you do. You see that he does, like, walk quietly. You see that when he sees new animals, he doesn't, like, run up to them immediately, but he's cautious but also assertive. Like, if something sees him, he doesn't run, he doesn't turn around, but he also tries not to be seen or heard. There's just, like, a lot of little things that you know that you do when you're walking through the wilds as someone who has a lot of experience with animals that you see him doing as well. And as you're, like, going on this trip, you know, and showing him stuff, he pauses for a moment and goes, you know, I know frequently at the moment I'm trying to kind of maybe assert a certain degree of individuality and maybe separation. And it isn't.
Oh, I hadn't noticed.
I'm sure you hadn't. Yeah, it's pretty weird, right? And I mean, look, like, we're someplace sort of new for me, and I would be lying if I said that I was not peeved at first when we left the symbiobes and the potentials that those had for me. But here's the thing. This is a very small pond, and all of a sudden I'm a much larger fish than I was a few moments ago. And that is exciting in its own way. I mean, not to hate on Sheriff Mitchell, but, like, you know, he's not... I'm going to say this, you're going to be mad at me. He's not a spring chicken anymore, you know? And I'm not saying you're old, Mom. You know, he's a little bit older than you. But, you know, all right, it's like, there's a need for someone to kind of, like, help him out who's not older than he is, you know?
I'm not going to fight you on that. I definitely think that he has needed someone to help him.
Absolutely.
I'm not always thrilled that it's you, but I know that you can do it.
Yeah, I know that I can. You know what really concerns me, though, is that I don't think you are willing to acknowledge that you maybe, like, you need help. Have you considered that you might need help and that you might be in over your own head?
Estelle, has, what's the word? Unconsciously. Estelle has unconsciously been, rubbing there's still a bandage over it, but she's still, like, rubbing that spot on her finger. I don't think so.
Yeah, solid lie there, ma'am. Yeah, solid. 10 out of 10. Yeah, I can't tell when you lie because I haven't been around you for, like, my entire life, and you're not the only person I've spoken to for lots of it, so it's cool. I can't at all tell when you're totally lying to me at this point.
She, like, gives him, like, a playful shove. I'm not in over my head. I'm doing fine. I've just got a lot on my mind.
Cool, yeah, and I've only had one girlfriend since I've been here. Yeah, we'll just stick with that then.
I don't care how many girlfriends. I mean, I do a little bit, but, like, it's your decision.
You don't care about who I date at all? Doesn't bother you a little bit?
One so far. I don't know who
You've met other people that I've dated.
Okay.
He looks down at your hand and goes, are we going to talk about the bandage on your hand? Did you cut yourself cooking? Because I could come back and start making meals for you, you know, if you can't handle that life chore.
No, I actually, you know, considering who taught you, I'm offended that you would insinuate that I would hurt myself cooking. No, I just scraped myself when we were out last time.
That was a while ago. You sure you don't... There's nothing going on that you need help with? Nothing of concern? Would you tell me if there was?
Yeah, I would.
Because it's alright, you know, like, and I'm not saying that I expect you to literally fall into dust tomorrow, but, like, I need help with things sometimes. It's okay for you to need help with some things sometimes.
I don't need you to sit here and parent me.
I think you might, you know, and I think that's okay.
Look, I am trying to work through what it is. I will tell you if it turns out to be something that I'm more concerned about.
Maybe ask someone who, like, knows. Like a smart person.
I went to the pharmacist.
Mom, that pharmacist is a drug dealer. He is a drug dealer. Not even like a little bit. Mom, he's sold me drugs. I didn't ask for drugs.
Did you buy the drugs?
I didn't give him money, but I do still have, you know, a bag of something that is not painkillers.
Okay, well, you should get rid of that.
Oh, really? Should I? Who should I give him to? Should I give him to Mitchell? Do you think he'd be chill? Does Mitchell strike you as a chill man?
No. Just put it back in. Put it behind, like, the pharmacist building.
Just want me to throw it in the dumpster.
There's, like, what's it called?
Is it biological? You could compost it.
There's, like, biohazard places to throw things away. Just, I don't know. I should have some. I have, like, needles. Just drop them off at my place.
I don't think I can trust you with drugs, ma'am. You had a crazy past. You had a wild childhood.
I don't know what wild childhood you're referring to.
I can tell. You were out of control, weren't you? Where do you think I get it from?
Absolutely wild. No, but I promise if it is something that I should be more worried about, I will let you know.
Perfect. And I promise that I will not be as reckless as I present myself as. That is 90% because it impresses people and gets me attention. If I'm being honest, it's not a terrible deal, I'm not going to lie to you. This big fish, small pond thing, there's a lot of perks. There's like a lot of perks.
Estelle puts her arm around him and squeezes his shoulders. I don't know where you get that from, but...
I think you're generally a big fish. I think you're a big fish.
I'm really proud of you, Matthew. I think you're doing really good.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm proud that you are willing to do as much as you do for this town. I'm a little bit worried for you because I don't think you ask for help enough, if being honest. But I appreciate that I think you're where I get it from. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a coincidence that you're the one running off into the wilds and I'm the one dealing with it when you run off into the wilds.
Apparently we're just too reckless for our own good.
Right.
All right. I think this is about as far as we need to go. Otherwise, we're not going to make it back to town before it's dark.
So as you guys turn around, you start walking back. He's kind of like got his arm around your shoulders, and he goes, "So when do I get to meet your boyfriend, by the way?"
I don't... When do you think I have time for a boyfriend?
You came all the way out here. You're like one of the more impressive people in this town, and you have not even bothered to get a boyfriend.
I don't have time.
I am getting more worried about you, Mom, alright?
I don't...
Do you want to spend the next small, finite amount of your time, your life, alone? Alright?
Wow.
Living with Juliet.
Okay, first of all, the solariums are almost done, and I'll finally be able to actually...
That's worse, you'll just live alone! And then Juliet will be alone forever!
Why do you think Juliet's gonna be alone forever?
Brutal. After she went over his plans and everything with him, the only person.
No, he's more fully aware of how much of a dork she is. He didn't know quite the level, and now he does.
All right, Juliet, you finish your day at work. And you know,
Good transition.
And my ears are burning.
you finish your day at work and you're like, oh, wow, my social calendar is empty. And you decide to rectify that by going and talking to Willow, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll say Willow is like, she is, as is typical, in the like radio room in like the back of the town hall. You, so you get up there and the door is closed, but the recording sign is not on. Or like the live sign is not on.
Okay. So I think she like kind of knocks and then opens the door slowly.
As you slowly open the door, you just see like, you see Willow standing on a stool on a rolly chair, trying to like fish a wire over a wall.
Oh, Willow, hi, can I help you with something?
You see her like freeze and she goes, no, and it's fine. I'm not about to fall. Don't worry about it. It's totally cool. There is nothing.
Let me just spot you.
To worry about, and then like it just all collapses, and she just like lands on her feet, just like, that was intentional. Hi, what's going on? Hi, how are you?
I'm concerned for your safety, but that's not why I'm here. I was just wondering, you have so many interesting guests on your radio and know so many of the artsy people.
Are you asking to be on my show? Yes, you can be on the show. Yeah, definitely.
No. You just have.
You don't want to. You see her like putting a microphone down, sort of like, yeah, okay, later. We'll talk about that later. Anyways, what can I do for you?
I was just wondering if you had anybody do poetry, or if who I would talk to if I wanted to read poetry, I guess. Nature poetry, specifically.
You see her, like, slowly bringing a microphone back over, and she's like on the radio, or...
I just figured if anybody would know who was...
Microphone goes back out.
Who was writing poems, you probably would at least know of them, and maybe have had them on your show, and maybe not, but you'd know them. Am I right?
You know something? Okay. I actually do know of a few poets in town. They get together. There's like this cute little coffee shop. They all do readings. It's really fun. And I would love to take you if you'd like to go sometime.
Oh, okay. If that's all right, then yes.
Why would I not want to go and read? You know, it'd be like a fun thing to do with a friend, right?
Yeah, I just, I've never been to one before, and...
Do you have a poem written? Are you, like, ready to go? Are we going?
Oh, no, I don't. Is that a requirement?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, good, okay.
I think you can just go and listen. You just seemed very anxious to write. What is it about poetry?
Well, I don't want to write it. I just thought it might help make... I guess I make a lot of lists. I don't know if you know this about me.
I do. Yes, I do.
Just a little bit. And so far lists are good and useful, and I'm not going to stop making them, but there are times when they're less useful. I feel like, given all of the improbable things that have happened lately, that lists have not been able to foresee or be helpful with, that taking a different approach might be the prudent way of handling things and processing them in a healthy way, besides just making more lists.
That felt like a list. We should go listen to poetry. She gives you like an address of this little coffee shop and a time, like 7 o'clock at night, meet out here. Is there anything that anyone else wants to do this day before that happens? This is not like a, no point of no return. Just curious if there's anything that anyone wants to do during the day.
And then the plot happens.
I will say, Zach, I know there's a scene that you want to do that is upcoming.
Oh yeah, no, I'm cool whenever. Like, I just wanted to make a joke about it. Like, like plot just starts happening at Nature Poetry Slam. That's the whole crux of this arc is Nature Poetry Slam.
So, the evening, like, gets on. You remember yesterday you were walking away from all of the, like, lights and people having happy moments in this town. And this time Juliet actually gets to kind of, like, be there and experience it. As you walk into the market area where this little coffee shop is, you walk past Fred's shop and you notice that it's empty. Which is not necessarily odd. You know that he's been going out into the wilds on occasion. You saw him yesterday. So it's like, not that weird. But it is like you kind of realize you haven't seen him in, like, all day. You didn't see him at the gardens. And you notice that, it's just like, oh, okay, he must not be around today. He's doing something else, whatever. So you continue making your way to this little coffee shop. You see that there's a bunch of people sitting in tables outside in the kind of this area that's all pavers and these cutesy little shops that are all set up. You order a drink and sit down and you look up at the stage where there are people, reading poetry, and you see a familiar face. It's odd to see him out of the lighthouse, but you see Ruben. He looks very uncomfortable to be out in public. He is still holding a lit cigarette between, like, yellowed fingers, and has a cup of coffee that he's still drinking, and they, introduce him like, oh, Ruben's here to read a poem. And you see him kind of, like, shuffle out, and he just, like, puts the cigarette in his mouth and then pulls out a notebook, puts the coffee on a stool, and just starts to read. And I actually wrote a little poem for Ruben to have. What unfathomable challenge that butterfly is unwilling to change, cannot go awry, the horror of potential or the promise of growth sequential. Even those most firm rock may erode, all we hold dear or fear will corrode. And yet a cocoon does not give birth to grotesque monstrosity. The beauty of a painter within is not an anomaly. What unfathomable challenge the butterfly. Its unwilling change cannot go awry. The horror of potential or the promise of growth sequential. He finishes this and there's, like, polite clapping, and he just, like, walks off, like, not acknowledging the audience at all. But then he sees you and is just kind of like, you see his face light up, and he comes over and sits down and goes, "Nah, I did not expect to see you here." And he, like, takes a drag on the cigarette, lights another, puts it in his mouth, drinks coffee at the same time.
I didn't know that you wrote poetry. That was beautiful, Ruben.
When you read as much as I do and spend as much time as I do by myself, you have to fill your time with something. I will say, I feel that my words are frequently amateurish, but it is a thing that I enjoy in the town. As I talked about, there are things about here that I do not want to go away.
I can see why.
So what brought you out, though?
I guess I was looking for this, and I didn't really know that I was, but being out in the wilds has been a different experience from all the rest of my life, I think it's fair to say, and it's a lot to process, and I was hoping for some sort of guidance or a framework, maybe, to maybe think about it that wasn't so rigid, I guess.
When you say that, you see, like, when you say framework, he, like, smiles a little bit and goes, you have formal education, correct? You, like, went to university and
yes,
were, accredited by such. I never did. I inherited a lighthouse that was full of books and read all of them and found that I enjoyed it. Now, I will say, the philosophers that I have read tend to have maybe a framework that you might call lacking, in that they frequently are long, wandering messes. But it does give I'm going to say perspective, and I did not mean to make a rhyme in this case, although That's a good one I should keep in my back pocket. Now, here's my point. Did you ever dive into philosophy, while you were being schooled, or were you like pretty rigid in your,
I was fairly focused on biochemistry and its pharmaceutical applications. So no philosophy for me.
I think that poetry is a great place to start. Yeah, to me, it's one of those things that's always better to read in conversation than it is to just read by yourself in a lighthouse with no one to talk to about it. I think that frequently these truths only come out when you talk about them or when you write poems about them.
Well, if you have any extra poetry books, I'd be happy to read them and then come back and talk to you about them. I can't guarantee that I will have anything particularly enlightening about them. I've never been very good with poetry, to be honest, but...
That's fine. The thing is, I'll talk forever about any of them. And it will be nice to have someone to talk to about them. But certainly, there are definitely many books you can borrow as long as you don't mind a little bit of water damage and the slight smell of smoke on them, because they are used.
I don't mind. Does your roof need patching with the water damage? I can help do things around the lighthouse just because I'm borrowing your things.
You don't have to pay me back to borrow books. No, it's just that the air is very humid. Anyways, certainly you can borrow a book. It just means next time I think I will definitely expect a reading of some sort.
Of those poems or of my poem?
Of one of yours, obviously.
I don't have any right now.
No, I mean next time, not right now.
I mean, I've never written a poem except in Garden. Sorry, except in kindergarten.
Oh,
and
dust it off, bring it in.
I don't think anybody needs that.
Ruben is the meanest person I can imagine. Like, just someone being like, that poem you wrote in 4th grade? I want to read that. I can think of nothing worse in my life.
He smiles and goes, well, it just means at some point I am going to wear you down until you do a reading to match mine in amateurishness. And, I'll say, that evening, he, leads you off to the lighthouse and gives you a shockingly tall stack of books to read. Tiny print.
And poetry books are thin, too, usually.
Oh, yeah, and these are, dense. Just, anthology of every poem ever, right? Huge books. We're going to cut back over to the wilds. So, Fred, forever ago, you had put in this order into this computer to make you a new kind of metal, right? You knew that there was going to be some wait time on that, so you're just going back today to check on this. And I'll say we're rewinding time a little bit here, right? You make your way back that same trip you've made several times now, back to that mine. You go down, check on the computer, and you see that the loading bar is a quarter done, and you have that all right,
I'll come back next week.
Yeah. So this is pretty early in the day at this point, is there anything else you want to do down here?
So you kind of said something offhand in the previous time I was down here. You said this looks like this is a bit of a larger facility.
Yeah.
Where are there doors leading to other parts of the facility?
There's solid stone walls.
Okay. So this little area I'm in is pretty sectioned off. There's nowhere to go.
It is, yeah, and that itself is kind of indicative of something, right? It feels odd that you would find this in the way that it is where it is. Does that make sense?
Right.
You get a diamond axe and cut through the stone.
I got okay, here's what I'm thinking, the place where the stuff gets dumped on the ground.
Yep.
Is that a conveyor belt leading up to it, or what is that?
Yeah, I would say like whatever the machine is that's stamping out ingots, or like you see like metal being poured into ingot molds and then like cooled and dumped out, like that is just dumping out into a pile.
Okay.
Right, so that probably feeds off of a conveyor, but you would expect that to get put onto something and sent somewhere else to make some, like you've played Satisfactory, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine that you had like the ingot machine not going to like a crate or anything, it's just a full conveyor of ingots going nowhere.
Gotcha. So if I follow that back, like go backwards along the conveyor or along the line, where does that lead? Just go into a wall?
Yeah, it dead ends.
Okay.
Yeah, if you go the other way, you would just get to the ingot machine, yeah.
Okay. What else is in here? Because I think if I remember right, there was other like samples of stuff here as well.
There's that computer that you use to try to make new sample or make new metals. There's the machines that's making the metals, and there is those robots that we're using to like gather materials of some sort.
Wasn't there also something about like something that had organic materials, or was that the other place?
No, that was a different place.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a different place. Sorry.
I'm mixing the two places up.
That's fine. That was the place that was a lunar colony.
Right. Gosh, I can't think of anything to do here right now.
No, if you don't have anything else to do, that's not necessarily bad at all. It's just an option, you know.
I am actually curious, how long is the fissure that this thing, the door this thing is in? Like, how long does that go in each direction?
Oh, I would say the total length of it's probably like a quarter of a mile. It's pretty big.
Okay. Fred will explore that, see if there's anything else along this crevice.
Cool. So you walk out and you start making your way down this fissure, and you're like, maybe you've gotten an eighth of a mile, right, away from your ladder. And as you're pretty far away from it at this point, right? Like you couldn't reach over and grab it.
Right.
And as you're walking, you look up, and you can see it's daylight above you, right? But you are pretty far down deep. It's dark here. It's got a very musty smell. There's like water probably running through the very bottom of this fissure. And as you look up and you kind of see like beautiful tree canopies blowing in the wind, you see the sky above that. It's kind of a beautiful scene that you see. And as you're looking up, you see a head lean over the fissure looking down at you.
What kind of head?
The eyes are glowing. A deep, murky green. Kind of, I'm trying to think of the right thing to relate this to. Almost like a luminescent, like slimy, like the color of like freshwater fish, that kind of like murk green. It's that, but there's light emitting from those, right? As this head stares down towards you.
Okay. Is this anything I've seen before? Like, does this look familiar?
It's pretty far up. Make me a check.
I guess notice.
Notice works, yeah.
Wow, I actually roll. Wow, I've only rolled twice so far in this episode and the previous episode, and I've rolled really well both times. That is a 3.
It's Hugo. Most definitely Hugo. As you see that head stick out over, it's kind of got a big shaggy beard, long hair. You see the mouth open, and this unearthly screeching, like snapping sound pours from it. It is chilling. It is a sound that you would never want to hear in a forest, right? It is like, oh, that's bad, right?
Right.
And as you hear that sound, you see another head peek over the edge with those same murk green eyes.
Does this also look like Hugo?
No, just a different... It's a person, but a face you don't recognize. And you see more and more of those heads popping up along the fissure. And then you see them starting to come down the ladder.
I book it back to the ladder. Oh, they're coming down the ladder or coming down the side?
They're coming down the ladder.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Oh, boy. How many of them are there? That I can see?
I would say right now you see 5.
How far away am I? Okay, a couple questions. How far away is the ladder from the door to the? I probably put the ladder right at the door, didn't I?
Yes. And you are away from both the door and the ladder.
How high up is the crevice? Like how tall is the ladder, effectively?
Let's call it something like 30, 40 feet.
Do I think if I sprint, I can make it back to the facility before they get down the ladder?
You can certainly try.
All right, I think I'm going to try that. I'm going to try to get it. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get into the facility and then shut and lock the door.
Okay, got it.
So I guess physique.
Yep, physique works.
All right. That's not as good. Just a 1.
Oof. Okay, so you take off running. You see and hear more of these eyes peeking out over the fissure as you go. You can see more and you can hear more of them, right? Like, this is starting to sound stampede-ish as you run down the fissure back towards this. Right as you get equal with the ladder, a pair of those glowing green eyes drops, right next to you. Not in front of you, just next to you. And you see this figure. It's not Hugo, but again, it is some kind of human. You can see that its joints look like they've bent the wrong way. You can see large growths, rupturing through their skin that look like carapace and wood. You can see, scale and fur ripping out of other parts. Their face is long and distended. Their jaws, sagging down too far. Their chin almost equal with their chest. The eyes glow this horrible murky green, and although the movements are uncoordinated and grotesque to look at, they're very quick as you feel a hand like hard oak rip across you as you're running. You just keep moving and barrel in to the facility, turn around and slam the door and try to figure out a way to barricade it. Make me a crafting check.
All right. Don't fail me, dice.
Oh, sorry. And, so remind me, if you take 2 damage, does that...
That takes the number 2 slot.
That takes the number 2 slot of physical stress. Okay, got it.
Not good. Wow, that is horrible. Remind me, what can using fate points do?
I believe you...
Does it let me re-roll?
I believe it does let you re-roll, yeah.
I think I want to do that because it was very bad.
Go for it. Yeah.
I mean, it's still technically positive. I can't roll negative on this roll, but with a +5, I should get better than a 2.
That matters. It matters in this case. This is a time when it's okay to use a fate point.
It ends up being a 4.
Okay. So you run in and slam the door, and you have this horrible moment of there is literally nothing around me that can do anything. And then you look over and see one of those robots that was used to carry resources, and basically you just frantically turn it on and it just smashes into the door and is basically imagine it's just pushing against the door. It's just still running and trying. You basically just told it leave and then close the door, and it just ran into the door and is still pushing on the door. And you can hear what feels and sounds like branches clawing and tearing at this door as you hear impacts thunk, 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 thunk. The lights start flickering around you, and you just hear the machinery and the thunking on the door. What do you do?
I mean, there's nowhere to go, as we've previously established.
You did successfully barricade yourself someplace, yeah.
I mean, where else was I gonna go, though?
No, I got no problem with this. This is fun. This is good for me. It's bad for you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna investigate the machinery in here. So we previously established that it kind of dead ends into the wall, right?
Yep.
How does it there's got to be some kind of opening, right? For stuff to get through, I would imagine.
Okay, I think maybe I'm explaining this poorly. This thing is taking raw ore from, like, you're basically in a vein of metal right now, right? And what this thing is doing is harvesting that, feeding it into...
Oh, so it's self-contained then. This whole unit is self-contained.
Yes.
There's no other part. Oh, okay.
Yes.
See, when you said it was part of a bigger structure, I thought it was bringing a material from somewhere else to be processed here.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it is here as a mine, basically.
Good. I think I just wait for a while.
Okay. That's fine. Like, that's not... I don't want to give a bad impression here. That's an okay response here, that you basically barricade the door and you're just like, hopefully someone figures it out.
Actually, real quick, is there any... So the machinery that's in here, I guess it would include some kind of... It would have to include some kind of forge, right? To melt down the material?
Yep.
Okay. Fred is going to start working on making basically a sledgehammer.
Oh, okay. So you just want to arm yourself better?
Effectively, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, we'll say we end, like, it's growing dark outside as you still just hear thunking at the door. This robot running, and you can, like, see its battery depleting as you start frantically trying to make a bigger, more deadly sledgehammer. With the materials that you have around you. I'll say maybe like one of those new ingots spits out and you're like, all right, we're using that, you know. So that's going on down in this mine shaft. Meanwhile, we cut back to Smoky Banks. Juliet has just left with Ruben to go get some books of poetry. Estelle, I think that like you're enjoying a nice dinner with your parents. They've been bugging you forever, like, when will you come and get dinner with us? So finally, you know, your dad's playing guitar, there's a little crowd, you're eating snacks, it's very nice. You know, somewhere in a secluded corner, Autumn and Willow are just, like, making out as they are, you know, just having a fun, flirty evening and are so happy. You know, they can hear music off in the distance and they've found it a little secret place to be all snuggly and sweet with each other for a minute. And as all that's happening, you hear one scream at first, and then another, as Estelle, you look up across the market that is beautifully lit, and just across where the river is, right, that runs by the market, you can see coming up out of the water these murky green glowing eyes, slowly pulling themselves out of the water. And you look over and you see a person who was just like sitting, having a nice meal. You see one of them just get slashed across the chest as they get knocked to the ground, as one of these creatures just slowly advances over them and starts attacking the next person next to them and the next person next to them. You hear sirens going off, like tables are knocked over, you hear shouting, and like the last thing you see before it turns into total pandemonium is Matthew just running towards one of these things. And that's where we'll end. Thanks for listening to this episode of Wanderlust. Music for this show is credited down below. If you like this campaign, you can find more of our shows at the Wandering Gamer website or on Podbean. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links in the description. Now bear in mind, in the wilds, some wander to get lost, and some wander to find themselves.